All right. So I want to touch on this very topic right here. As you know, I do apologize if I had said 1-7, referring to what my record is for this 2025. I said 1-7 when it was supposed to be 1-6. Yeah, July is already the seventh month of the year. Normally, if you think seven, it's usually for July, right? So instead of 1-7, it's 1-6. So this topic right here is mainly for me to discuss that I may be a possible 1-6 instead of you know going 0-7. Yeah, that's what I would have meant if I had said 0-7, referring to another bad month, right? So by far, the way I see it, especially with what's going to be happening in these next 2 weeks, it, if I knew how to, if I, as long as I can take full advantage of them, knowing what I have to do, then for sure this can be. I mean, unless the next few months, I mean, I just can never predict anymore. But I mean, it's not like back then when things weren't as unpredictable, and as far as me, seeing so much light ahead to where I say, hey, this month's gonna be good, the next month's gonna be good, or these next few weeks are gonna be good, this and that. Remember, I don't have as much outdoor freedom, as of right now as I used to, and I know I've already touched on a whole lot about the issues, and my work life and my outside life, just both chaotic for different reasons, right? But for the most part, I'm doing my part in that. I'm doing pretty well. Just doing what I'm doing here at home, and just basically lessening the stress, the stress vibe and the stress load of, you know, my family that usually does their duties. I've been covering up for a lot of theirs, and for the most part, just keeping a good balance. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. And it's really still not going to change much of what's happening here if you're talking about the bigger picture of it. But for the most part, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, as far as like, increasing my awareness and doing more than I normally would do back then. And it's much needed now because they're dealing with a new responsibility. And right now, I think for me and us as a whole, I think we ourselves are gonna get a break, and especially for me too, in these next 2 weeks. So I know what I have to do. I know what we have to do, and but let's focusing on me for a second. You know, I never know what this month is gonna be like. I know I made a rant about my dump issues, like, was it a couple days ago as I was heading home. Obviously, I know how I feel. It's just feeling stuck in that dump, and going through another holiday weekend. In this case, now it's a 3-day weekend, 4th of July weekend. And I know what I said, that I'm not sure if I'm ever gonna have a good 4th of July weekend, or let's just say like even a decent one. But yesterday actually turned out to be pretty decent. Although I didn't really go out, um, it still became a decent one. So it wasn't that bad. You know, that day I was able to fly by pretty fast, and I'm pretty sure. And now, just knowing what's transpiring and going into these next couple of weeks, I may finally see, for once, a good month this year. For once, after going 0-6. Last year I went 0-5, and before June became my first official good month. This year it went from 0-5 to 0-6. And although, I mean, yeah, I just think, like, although last month I've seen like a lot less of my turnovers. I'm talking about like some of the mistakes that I have made in comparison to the previous month, which is May and in April. May being in like an all-time high, and like mistakes made for me because of the severe anxiety that I faced. That went down dramatically as of last month and going into this month as well, because I know what I'm expected to do. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say expected, but I'm just knowing what I have to do, because of my increased awareness and knowing that I'm not going to let anything get to me, as far as like, the same criticisms I'm getting over and over, and as it shows of, what it may appear to be my laziness back then. And now I'm doing my part right. And as far as like, you know, it's like my therapist said, you can feel anxious all you want, but if you don't take action, you're always going to feel like that. I see his point there. I think the one thing that's really challenging about therapy for me, especially having to take this kind of therapy for the first time ever, is knowing how to apply what your therapist teaches you. Now, for me, obviously, I know my mental health concerns, just going through it, and to feel this burden of a mental health issue. I know what I'm capable of as far as like, what I'm being taught, but to apply that is the bigger challenge. So it is still taking some time. I know it's already been a month, but for the most part, I feel like I'm catching on a little bit, but I'm not really like fully out there yet, as far as like, just having a much better understanding. I mean, I get what he's trying to teach me, but so far, I mean, it's still as much of a learning process as it is for me to apply what I've been taught, and just going through, just going through different situations at a time, even if the stress that I'm dealing with right now is some of the heaviest stress I've ever faced in my life, compared to the stress that I've dealt with in the past. So, I mean, yeah, people can say, yep, you're getting help at the right time, and, with what I'm facing right now, I gotta learn to apply it. But for me and my sake, I mean, it is still taking some time. I feel like I'm being heavily tested, but it's all up to me to just really know how to, mentally apply everything that I learned from the therapist, and go from there. Because the more successful you get at it, then it's no secret that I would have already gotten mentally better at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have already mentally become a better person, as far as my mental health is concerned, and that dealing with unhealthy environments and toxic environments, and just gaining so much more optimism to the point where I don't feel affected so much anymore, or just not at all, right? With any toxic / unhealthy environments. I mean, it's taking some time for me, because I know what I've gone through, and being this person that I am, just with all different kinds of emotions. And I know I have had this tendency to feel really sensitive about a lot of things, but as time goes on, I know that at some point, like, I'm gonna have a better understanding. But that's gonna be all up to me to just really, get by and learn more and more. So I gotta write down going forward what I feel, and based on anything that bothers me, then I can talk to my therapist about that. I think it's better if I write things down on what I feel, and based on what I'm hearing that irritates me to the point that I know I have no control over it. These are the things I should touch on to a therapist. So going forward, like if anything, like what I hear yesterday or as of recent, like I gotta write them down so that you know at least I'm aware now. Like at least I know what to tell him the next time I meet up with him, right? So I got to do that going forward. So at least from there, I can probably gain a better understanding of how to better my mental health if I'm writing down the specifics of what I feel, not just going through just the like the mental I mean, the just like the general aspect of what people are going through. Of course, we all go through things that are very common as far as like what our problems are and what the common reactions are for you know for what we feel towards certain situations, how stressful they can be. And like Dewey said, it's normal to feel this kind of stress. But for me, like I said, I gotta write down you know the specifics, what I specifically feel based on this specific thing that I gotta write. What I'm feeling irritated at. So it's like I'm writing things down like I'm asking questions, but when really they're just feelings, like these specific feelings that I just write down. Um, you know, so that when I tell the therapist next time, at least he can give me more, you know, the specific answers to what I need. That's what I mean when I said it seems like I'm being writing down questions, you know, just to get the answers from them. That's what I mean, even though they're not necessarily questions that I'm writing. But yeah, that's what I gotta do going forward. Before meeting up with a therapist again. But anyways, I know I rambled on here about my therapy and mental issues and all of that, but getting back to this topic, yes, I could be going 1-6 with what may be happening, but what or already what's happening in these next 2 weeks, because like I said, I can't really predict anymore. You know, before I can predict back then, like, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, because of the fact of that my outdoor freedom is being limited, and it has been limited for quite some time, from like the past couple of months. you know like I hardly have any weekends to myself these days, and just knowing what's going on here in my outside life, and I'm dealing what I gotta deal with. But now with these 2 weeks, I think my outdoor freedom will be not so limited, but it may still be limited, but it's not like strictly limited. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, these next couple of weeks, because look, I mean, it's already gonna feel like half of the month, like the first half of the month. you know I can get things done for me, and and especially with my career. So finally, for me, I can get a good month going. And like I said, I mean, I'm not gonna know until I hear like last minute, like for example, like here, the 4th of July weekend. I, I'll maybe assuming we might be dealing with the same old, what, but um, but at least now I know. I mean, it didn't take me until like later that night, the night before July 4th, that this was gonna happen, that's gonna happen, and you know these next 2 weeks is gonna be this and that, and that's when, I mean, that's the only time I can find out, right? So yeah, I want to say it's so much of a day by day thing. I mean, it's all gonna depend. It's gonna be more of a minute by minute kind of thing, before I know if it's gonna be, if I can finally find myself doing what I need to do and getting my outdoor freedom, even for just a little bit of time, and or just getting things done like what I need to do. Finally doing what I what I'm able to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, as of right now, like going into, I know it's only Saturday, but I'm going to these next couple of weeks I can finally get what I can get done. Hopefully, I can get some good results out of what I'm doing, especially if it's regarding my career. So, with where it stands, I know what I have to do. Um, so I got to give it a lot of thought and effort. Just knowing, like, in the future, I myself can see my own changes happen for the better part of me and my mental health and my life in general. I need to see it happen. I mean, I just can't keep sitting there in that damn workplace just knowing that it's the same old BS. I mean, when's the AC gonna work again? When is Mr. Lee gonna retire? When is, when are some of these guys gonna leave, even the lifers? I had to tell myself that it's not going to happen like that. I already know Mr. Lee's not gonna retire. I mean, how long has he been, working in this company? This is pretty much his baby. So it's like, hey, he's got to do what he's got to. He's gonna run this place like he's always done. And I know myself, I gotta do everything I can in my power to, to find myself in a better situation, a better job situation, and that I won't, I'm gonna have a better life. I can feel more challenged. I can finally just get out of all this everyday misery that a lot of times when I come home, I still feel like total crap. You know what I'm saying? So I got to work on that a whole lot. Just doing more things that to gain job interviews. Like I said, I got this 2-week period that it's gonna feel long, but because it is long, I gotta take advantage of it, like to where I feel like I'm doing a lot. Otherwise, it's gonna be the same old, same old, and I'm gonna feel a whole lot more miserable. And then I might be going 0-7 instead of 1-6. So I already know my 2025 is the worst year ever. I know I said it's gonna be a while until I have a good year in general. Those two things are still true. However, with this big break that I'm getting, I need to take advantage of it. So even if those two things will still remain true, at least what I'm doing, it may produce better results for me in that I may see more changes, like at least changes for me, for the betterment of what my future will be like, even if it has to be the next few months. So I got to work on that as much as I could. So like I said, there's a possibility of a 1-6, but I can only make it happen if I take full advantage of these next 2 weeks and this big break that I'm taking right now. I mean, it almost seems like it's unofficially starting now, but that may officially just start tomorrow. So, I mean, it seems like it's starting now. I can do what I need to do. But yeah, so this is all I want to touch on, man. This is, like I said, I need this big break. I do see a potential 1-6 instead of an 0-7 for my 2025 year, and who knows what may happen in the next month. And the bird season, obviously, September is in a couple of months, and who knows? I may see a long-term changes happen for the better, especially going into next year. But still, it's, with a lot of these changes that have already happened, there's more changes to come around me. But for me, myself, and I gotta make changes for my own as well. And yes, this includes my job situation. I can't just sit there, and I don't want to go in my 13th year in September. So anyways, yeah, man, this is what I'm gonna touch. This is all I gotta touch on, man. I know I rambled in about my mental health and a job situation. But I just want to get my point across on how I can get this one good month. Will it be only one? I don't know, because I can't predict the future anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's gonna happen in August. I mean, I know it's gonna happen like in the beginning, but I don't know as a whole what's gonna happen in August, September, October, November, December. You know what I'm saying? So it's a minute by it's mostly for me it's just a minute by minute thing. You know, I can't really have this kind of winning record that I used to. When I had my winning records um, back then, it's because I'm always prepared that something good is going to happen in this particular month or in a couple of weeks, and I had so much more outdoor freedom then compared to now. So, yeah, man, that's all I want to say, and then just enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Peace.